Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for our October call. This call is going to be technical in nature and we'll just do quick announcements. Just a friendly reminder that we're going to record the call and then we're going to post it in the Resource Center along with the slides and the video. And we're just basically gonna do some quick updates and then Capstone is gonna take it away and get into the substantive topic, which is technical. So just quick announcements. We are planning a code release in mid-November and we will share the details in the list. So just be on the lookout for that. And then the other thing is that we are tentatively planning a server update on Friday after hours in the East Coast. So there will be an announcement on that too. But Friday night, hopefully it's not a night that, particularly being Halloween, hopefully you won't be working on the server because it may be down for about an hour or so. The other thing is just reminders basically for those of you who are looking at how to send documents that may already exist in LHI or are being developed, how to send those remotely and do review of documents or what I call e-submission. We have created features over the summer and I have put in here the links to sign up and to get more information on those features. And so if you want to use those, feel free. For Connect, email me and I will work with you to set you up on that. And if you want to benefit from the new email capacity and document attachment capacity, you can fill out the Google form here. And if you want to learn how to use the e-signature in PDFs, use the form and we will get back to you. But we're hoping that you are thinking, since the pandemic and closures may last past December, maybe thinking, and we would be happy to talk with you as we talk about these products or capacities on the back end, one-on-one, to help you figure out how you could use this in existing or forms that are coming up live soon. And the last announcement is that the Equal Justice Conference is still accepting proposals. They extended it from last Friday to this Friday. So if any of you want to think or put through a proposal, I encourage you to do so. You can reach out if you want to brainstorm. I'm happy to help you out. But I think it's always good when partners present their work, particularly anything that they're very proud of or is really helping real-time folks. And so without more, just the next calls, save the dates. We have our monthly call on November 17th. We've moved all the calls a week or two up because of the holidays happening at the same time that we have the call scheduled those weeks. So the November call is before Thanksgiving on the 17th. In December, we will have our national webinar, which will be about taking expert knowledge and how to organize it and map it so that then it can be put into software. And then the December call is being pushed up to the 15th instead of the 22nd because of the holiday, and it's going to be one that focuses on best practices. And that's about it. I will transition to Mark, and it is a small group. So Mark, if you want me to unmute folks, let me know.
Okay, sounds good. Good afternoon, everybody. Bart is going to handle most of this, but I want to do just a little introductory thing here. One is to point out that there's at least one really good resource on the LawHelp Interactive Resource Center. And from way back in 2012, we did a national webinar on this topic. You can access the video from it. One thing here, the actual link here doesn't work the way it used to, but this one does. So if you want to run the video, it's an hour long, and the slides from that are also available. Bart, I don't know if there's anything major that's changed, but I think most of the basic concepts of Word and HotDocs interaction are reasonably the same, but I wanted to mention that. The other preliminary point is, I think as most of you know, because you're veterans on this call, one of the things you can do on LHI is have a Word template that can be an RTF or a docx, but then specify that the user will get it as a PDF at the output. So there's a box in the metadata where you can check convert documents to PDF, and that'll convert any and all Word documents in the assembly set in a session into PDF for the user. So it's controlled entirely by the developer, not by the user. Someday we may offer that as a user switch, but that's a feature that's out there. And the last thing I wanted to mention quickly was I always encourage folks to go back and spend time in the HotDocs help, the built-in contextual help you get in HotDocs Developer. And if you search for Microsoft Word, you'll find a lot of relevant materials, including this thing about common confusions. And one of these addresses smart quotes. And they basically tell you to turn off smart quotes in your HotDocs Word templates. I generally do that just because in the past, if you had a smart quote in an instruction or elsewhere, as opposed to a regular quote, HotDocs would kind of freak out. I have a feeling that's gotten a little better. Bart can mention, he can follow up a bit on this, but pay attention to that. You can turn off smart quotes, at least temporarily, while you're authoring in HotDocs if you want to avoid troubles. And if you need to include smart quotes in an assemble, in something that's coming out of a computation, you can use dot codes, the LQ and RQ dot codes to create smart quotes dynamically from within HotDocs. So just a little glimmer of some issues. I think with that, Bart, I'm going to suggest we move to you, and Bart's going to take the main activity here. I'll make you presenter, or you already are, and you can show your stuff, and then we'll have plenty of time for questions. If folks have questions or comments, feel free to chat them to us or put them in the question pane, and we can unmute folks after Bart's done and have a broader conversation.
And GoToMeeting for some reason did not offer me a choice of which screen to show. So is my screen with the Word open showing?
Yes, just a blank document, okay. It looks like.
Yeah, good, mostly, yeah. So I'm going to talk about two things. One is automating checkboxes in Word templates, HotDocs Word templates, and that's a fairly short topic. I'm just going to talk about a couple of the choices that you have there and how to implement them. The other topic, which is we're going to spend more time with, is working with sections in Word, section breaks in HotDocs templates, because it gets pretty complicated. And what I'm going to cover really is somewhat of an overview of some of the problems that you may encounter and some of the things that you should be paying attention to. It is not a complete cookbook in terms of all of the problems that you might encounter and all of the solutions, because it's tremendously complex depending on the complexity of your templates. But I will point you to some HotDocs help that is very, very helpful and has a lot of detailed information about dealing with various scenarios. Let's start with the checkboxes. So I've got a Word document open, and let me just make these, make these characters a little bigger. Let's see. So they're a little bit more visible. Okay. So one of the things you encounter in a lot of court forms is checkboxes, and implementing them in a Word template, there are some issues that you have to confront. So the simplest way to do it, of course, is to use actual checkbox characters like these first two at the top, and to add logic, which either inserts a checkbox or an unchecked box depending on the answers to questions in the interview or any underlying logic that you may have implemented. And there's also, if you choose to go this route, in the resource materials, we've attached something that we covered in a little more depth in a previous session, one of these calls a few years ago. I think it's 12 years ago. Not much, a heck of a lot has changed, but I'm not going to go into detail about how to do it, but it is possible to use merge text with true-false variables and single select multiple choice variables, and also with computation variables, instead of putting the logic on the face of your template. One of the problems with using checkboxes and unchecked boxes and inserting them in the assemble document is that if you want users to be able to edit the assemble document, it's fairly difficult. Now, a very sophisticated user would know to go in, and if there's a checkbox and they want to uncheck it, they could find the unchecked box character and substitute it. That's not the majority or even close to the majority of your users. So one other solution, which folks have implemented over the years, is to use, instead of checkboxes, to use some other characters. And the most common choice is brackets that have an X or another character in the middle to replace the checked checkbox, and empty brackets to replace the unchecked box. And you can either have logic that inserts the X or does not insert the X, or you can use merge text also with a checkbox and an unchecked box as being the options. And there's merge text for true-false variables. So that's something you can do with a true-false variable, and sometimes that's a little cleaner than if and end if. And this stuff is not rocket science, but it's just something that you have to think about when you're automating templates in Word. Do you want them to be editable or not? And if they're going to be editable, what do you do about it? There is also in Word, the current version, most recent versions of Word, a box that can be checked and unchecked. And it would be possible to insert that. There's some problems with it. One is that it won't work in RTF templates. It only works in docx templates. And that docx templates, of course, produce docx documents unless you send them to PDF. And that presents a host of issues for users who may not have a software that they can edit or view the docx documents in. And also, it's a little bit user unfriendly. It's not obvious how you check and uncheck the box. So I don't regard that as a good solution. I think you either have to decide, the best approach to it is to either decide that you're not going to let users change the boxes, or you're certainly not going to make it easy for them to change them, or you substitute the brackets and the X or another character in the middle of the brackets as your checked and unchecked boxes. You may not have that flexibility. You know, maybe that a court, for example, says you have to have check boxes or unchecked boxes, but if you have the flexibility and you want users to edit, the brackets is certainly a good way to go. Before I jump into section breaks, I don't know if anybody has any questions or comments, so I'm going to pause for a moment to allow for that. And I'm not seeing any. So let me, without further ado, switch to talking about sections. Okay, so some of the problems that are associated with section breaks in Word templates arise in situations where you have to have different documents within a single physical document. So for example, you might have a complaint with a separate certificate of service, or a summons, or you might have an information sheet or a cover sheet, and all of that stuff is generated as a single document, and it all has to be formatted differently. So you have to use section breaks basically to break up the formatting and separate the documents. Some of the problems that you may see, you may get the wrong headers or footers, and that's particularly true if you're inserting templates into sections in a Word template. You may get the wrong page numbers. You may get page numbers that run on through the entire document. You may get the wrong page orientation if you're switching orientation from portrait to landscape within the document. You may run into problems. And you also may end up with continuous section breaks in place of next page section breaks. That's just a smattering of the problems. Probably a lot of folks on this call have seen more extensive questions or issues. And I'm just seeing in the question pane, going back to our prior topic, Brett Harrison has noted a tip regarding checkboxes. You can also create a HotDocs computation that will put the checked box or unchecked box in rather than having if-else logic, which is always a good thing to do. It makes it a lot cleaner. So going back to section breaks. First of all, for headers and footers, if you run into those problems, most likely you are going to encounter them in connection with inserting templates into other templates. And there, really the best solution is to use the keep header and keep footer characteristics of the insert statement in HotDocs, in the HotDocs template. So when you do an insert, you have options to check keep header or keep footer or both, and that usually takes care of a lot of the problems with different headers and footers. It doesn't take care of everything. There are other things that you need to pay attention to, but that is a good place to start if you're doing inserts. The only thing you have to watch out for there is that if you have a section after, if you have text in the document after the last insert, you want to make sure that you have a section break that controls the formatting in the final section, assuming that it's not the same formatting as what you just inserted. Because what will happen is, if you don't do that, is that the keep header and keep footer will bring in the header and or footer from the inserted template and use that in the balance of your main template where you've inserted it. My preference is always to put section breaks in the parent template and have the parent control all headers and footers in most situations. Keep header and footer works well, but one issue with headers and footers is that keep header and keep footer will control the content of the header and footer, which is a good thing, but there are some other things like page numbering and so forth that end up being controlled by the actual sections in the parent template. So some things to look at. By default, when you insert a section break in Word, it makes the header and footer same as previous. And my solution, my go-to solution for that is to always remove the same as previous and have every section have its own header and footer, regardless of whether they are the same or not. And the reason for that is that it can really play havoc with your document. If you have a complex document with a lot of inserted templates and etc., it can really play havoc with your document if the same as previous is set, and it just becomes a headache. It's just not worth using it at all. The other issue that you can run into is or other thing that you need to look at is different first page header or footer. So you have a section where you have a different first page header and footer, and it consists only of one page. And you end up inserting things or putting in logic that results in that section being more than a single page, And lo and behold, when you assemble the document, you end up with a different header and footer on page 2 and pages following. And there, what you really need to do is, unless you really do need a different first page header and footer, go in, add a page break to your template, and then go into the header and footer properties and uncheck the first page, different first page. And it's not always obvious when you look at a one-page document or a one-page template that may have a bunch of inserts in it. It's not always obvious that the first page header and footer setting is there so that you have a different first page. Another thing that you can run into is with numbering is that the numbered lists in your documents end up being sequential. In other words, you have a bunch of inserted templates, or you have a bunch of sections in the document where you have numbered lists that rather than starting over with 1, as they should, actually renumber or continue numbering from a previous list. And sometimes you can just take the first numbered item in that list and tell Word to start over. But oftentimes that's not really feasible because you have logic and you're inserting, that first numbered paragraph may have logic around it. It may not always be the first paragraph, etc. And one solution to that is to use completely different automatically numbered lists in every section of the document that has its own numbered list. The problem with that really is that it's really difficult in Word to figure out whether which numbered list you're actually using. You can go to the extent of using styles and linking numbering to styles and etc. But there's a lot of extra work if all you need is a simple numbered list. One solution that I've used and works well is to use the same list in everywhere, but create a list that has an outline numbered list that has a level 1 with no numbering. So if you go into an edit a numbered list in Word, a outline numbered list in Word, you can make the first level of that list with no number, and then when in your document, you can make some paragraph in the document that doesn't have to be numbered, say a caption, a title or what have you, apply the level 1 numbering to that, and then apply level 2, 3, whatever numbering levels to your actual numbered list. So what happens then is that every time Word encounters and HotDocs encounters the numbered list, it will start the numbering all over again because it's starting the numbering at level 2 after it encounters a level 1 numbered list, a level 1 number. You can also adjust the section start in page layout. The section start is the type of break in the section, and you can set a section next page section break. You can also another thing you want to look at is if you have a template that inserts multiple templates, and creates multiple documents, is instead of a page number field in the footer or header or wherever you number your pages, use the section pages field to number the pages. And that way, if every time Word encounters a new section, it will start the page numbering over. And that's how you get different page numbering in different documents within your template. It's just a few things to be aware of. And these are things that's just helpful to know in general when you're trying to deal with complex problems with word formatting and templates. In Word, if you have a section break and you delete it, Word applies the section properties of the section below the section break to the entire document. In HotDocs, if you have a section break that you have logic around, so you're removing it conditionally from when the document assembles, HotDocs does the exact opposite, and it applies the section properties of the section above the section break that was just removed to the document going forward. And that's just helpful to keep in mind. If you have problems, you always have to stop and say to yourself, okay, what is my logic doing here? It's removing a section break, and I'm getting a section break I didn't expect. If you examine the template, oftentimes you find that Word is doing and HotDocs together are doing exactly what is expected, because it's actually giving you the section properties for the first section rather than the one after the removed section break. And by section properties, by the way, I mean things like margins, page orientation. There are a whole bunch of things that differ from section to section that Word, other than the header and footer, although if you don't keep header and footer, for inserted templates, then you're going to get the section properties in the inserted. You're going to get the section properties for header and footer as well. The section property, another thing to be aware of is that the section properties in the parent template, if you have inserted templates, will override the properties of the first section of an inserted template. And finally, another thing to be aware of is that if an inserted template contains more than one section, HotDocs applies the properties of the last section of the inserted template to the part of the parent template that follows the insert. And that's what I was talking about when I was talking about keep header and footer not always doing exactly what you want. So another place, another resource to look at is the header and footer override scenarios topic in the HotDocs developer help. And I'm just going to switch to that. Okay. And show you what that looks like. Bring it over. So if you search for header and footer override, you get a list of topics. And the first one on the list here is the header and footer override scenarios. And this is very extensive help. It talks about a lot of some of the things that I've talked about today, but it also has in the body of this help, it also has these insertion scenarios, because there are so many different scenarios that you can encounter where you are inserting parent templates, child templates into parent templates, etc. And you have different mixtures. There's an example here where you've got parent section 1 header, parent section 2 header, parent section 2 header. Then you've got child header, and it shows you in all these scenarios what the outcome is going to be. And many times you will find, if you take your template, you may find that the your template matches one of these scenarios, or is close enough to it that one of these scenarios is actually useful. One other thing I should mention with inserted templates is that one of the nightmare scenarios is when you need to have a first section in a template that is conditional, so that if it's conditional, that means that the section break for that section, and it's usually a next page section break because it's usually a separate document. If that section is deleted and the content of that section is deleted, you're also deleting the section break using logic, then what happens is that the formatting of the document going forward is the same as that first deleted section, which is usually not what you want. And that's because of the way HotDocs behavior in deleting, when you delete a section break using logic, it uses the section properties of the section above the section break. And the solution that I've found sometimes is useful there is using a continuous section break. So if I'm going to switch over to Word for a second. So there are two different types of section breaks. There's the section page next page, and section break continuous. So if I go to layout and breaks, I'm given a choice of next page and continuous. So if I do a continuous section break, let me just turn on showing formatting so that you can see it. So here's the continuous section break. So I can actually have different formatting in this section without a page break. So if, for example, my main template, and I'm going to just delete these if my main template was, I need to change the font here. Okay, so I'm going to actually delete. I want to delete this. Okay, so if this is my first inserted section, and then I have a section break next page, and we'll just move this down line. So if I have logic around these two that deletes them, I'm going to end up with, below this section break, I'm going to end up with the same formatting as the section properties as I had in this first section. So what you can do is you can make these conditioned on one condition, and then make the insertion of this section break continuous conditioned on the opposite of this condition. And then above this, in this section above, you can have the properties that you want to apply normally below this section. And the only problem that you run into is that this creates a little bit of a spacing problem. So you have to make adjustments sometimes, maybe with the margins, to make sure that this section break continuous doesn't mess things up. And that really is what I wanted to try and cover today. And now we can entertain questions, comments. I'm happy also to answer questions about things other than section breaks if folks have other questions, but we can feel free to ask questions at this point.
Keep paying attention.
Yeah.
What do we got? I know a lot of folks have had questions about aspects of Word, and I find it maddening and confusing myself, so I usually ask Bart when I get into trouble. I'm pressing the unmute all participants button, Last time I tried that, it didn't seem to work. So when we have multiple organizers, I think maybe several of us have to. Here we go. Hey, Deanna, did you have a question or a comment?
Hi there. I did have a question. I was just typing it into chat, but it sounds like I shouldn't. All of a sudden I thought, how am I going to? Okay. So I'm pretty new to doing the Word documents in HotDocs, and I've been working on a couple of projects over the past year. And one of the things that I'm encountering is that it's when you have all those conditions that you don't know whether something is going to actually appear there because it's all conditional. Sometimes my spacing ends up being very weird. So there'll be very long spaces between things because, you know, something just wasn't generated. And I'm wondering if I'm missing some good guidance, or there's somewhere I can look to find out how to make that a little more consistent, or just kind of clean that up a little bit.
So the first part of your question, the audio was breaking up. I don't know if that was my audio or yours, but so maybe it was when you were describing something about spaces, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay, I'll say it again. So I'm just, you know, I'm working on a Word template. I have a lot of things that sometimes they show up and sometimes they don't, just depending on how questions are answered. And because of that, I end up with spacing in Word that's not great. So there's like lots of blank spaces between items. And I'm sure that's just because I'm new at this, but I'm thinking there might be some tips and tricks for trying to make that look consistent.
Yeah, I think I'd have to actually see the template to know what the issue was. But if you, I mean, the spaces, the logic is leaving the spaces there. So
Our returns are left, right?
Yeah, hard returns. You're talking about hard returns or actual spaces in the sense that you hit the space bar.
Yeah, yes, hard returns.
Hard returns, yeah.
So if somebody doesn't answer 5 questions, then there's just like a bunch of empty space there when they do answer.
Oh, okay. Well, when you say they don't answer questions, those are questions that are relevant. I mean, or if they're relevant questions, then you really have to handle, if you expect people not to answer a question, then you really have to add logic that allows, that tells the template what to do if they don't answer the question. So, you know, if you have,
Okay.
you know, if you have if you put a carriage, if you put the answer that you're expecting the user to answer plus a carriage return, and they leave it blank, so then you end up with a blank line and a carriage return. Well, what you can do is you can make that carriage return conditioned on the fact that they answered the question. Or, I mean, the alternative is that you force them to answer the question, you know, make it required or what have you.
So if I say if not answered, then I can put in like two quotes, and then it won't generate any sort of additional spacing.
Well, let's say that you have, you know, I'm trying to envision what your template looks like, but let's say that you have, and I'm just going to pretend this is a variable. Let's say that you have variable name, and this is exactly how it appears in your document, right? You've got a variable name and you've got a carriage return. Well, what you could do is you could make this entire paragraph conditioned on this variable not this variable being answered. So you could say if answered variable name. Forgive my typing. And then and if. Okay, so this condition will, if this variable is answered, all of this will come in, including the carriage return. But if it's not answered, then nothing will come in. So whatever is above this line, or what was ever above this paragraph is, and this end if, of course, will eat the carriage return here, so there will be no carriage return. So that's one kind of simple scenario. Your situation may be a little more complex. You know, there may be more that you need to do, but that would be the basic idea. So you make the formatting, basically the idea is that you don't just control for what happens to the variable name, you can control for what happens to the carriage return as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So other questions and comments? And again, I'm happy to talk about anything other than, you know, anything related to Word and HotDocs templates. Not necessarily section breaks, but if you have section break questions, we can certainly talk about it.
It's always good to show your paragraph returns while you're working in HotDocs for the reason Bart described, right? So,
yeah,
you know, if you got an errant hard return outside of a condition, it's going to survive in the assembled document, and they might accumulate if you have more than one.
And there's in Word, there's on the home ribbon under paragraph, there's this paragraph symbol. If you hover over it, it's show hide formatting. So you can, if you want to toggle, I usually work with formatting marks turned on because it's just much easier. But if at some point, if it annoys you to be constantly working with them, you can just toggle it off and toggle it back on. Yeah. Another thing, if you're working in the Word, by the way, is that's really helpful is adding stuff to the quick access toolbar. Mine is getting kind of full, but I know where everything is. So that can be helpful. Like I've got the, for example, I've got insert of, because I don't want to go hunting for these in the right ribbon. So I've got insert a field, for example, here. So if I want to insert a field, I can. All the stuff that I do very frequently, plus some macros that I like to run. You know, I've got edit, header, and footer. I've got them here right on the quick access toolbar.
Hey Bart, looks like Marilyn's raising her hand. I don't know if that's a current question or not.
Yeah, it is raised. So Bart, I have just one of those annoying things that I think I've fixed, and it may be a similar solution to what you just did, but numbered paragraphs that are optional always seem to cause me trouble. And usually I've resolved it by moving that to the last paragraph in the string so that it doesn't throw off the numbering if it's not there. But there has to be a better way for that.
Well, auto numbering is definitely the way to go. And that's a whole topic when it comes to Word. I mean, it's one of Word's real strengths. I mean, other, you know, competing word processing software also has auto numbering, but it's, you know, you can do an awful lot with auto numbering in Word. And there are two types of numbering. There's the simple numbering, which is basically just one level, and there's also multi-level what Word calls outline numbering. So, and I almost always use outline numbering because it's just much easier to edit and control. I've never been able to, with simple Word numbering formats, I've never really been able to figure out how to change them once they exist. Whereas with outline, it's relatively easy to do it. And you can also use styles. That's a whole other topic in Word, which is, you know, styles can be very useful as well, because styles basically let you create a style that includes, that's associated with numbering, and then wherever you go in your document where you need that you know, that kind of a number, you can you know, you can just apply the style and bingo, you've got a numbered paragraph that's part of your numbered list. And you can define your own multi-level list, or you can start with something that Word already has and change it. But that's definitely, you know, when you have logic in any numbered paragraph situation, you definitely want to think about auto numbering. You can sort of build in auto numbering in HotDocs. For example, you can have a variable that you increment and set with logic, and auto numbering is a heck of a lot better. The only time that I've used numbering where you use a HotDocs variable is when I have a huge document that doesn't have any auto numbering in it, and people and the users don't know how to use auto numbering. They may be lawyers who are editing the assembled documents and they've never heard of auto numbering, and they rebel at the thought of using it. And then in that case, I will use HotDocs basically to, logic to number paragraphs. And you could put a number variable. HotDocs number variables can be, formatted to appear as Roman numerals, letters, uppercase letters, lowercase letters, and that's another way to go. But I would go to auto numbering first and foremost.
Well,
were you having a problem with auto numbering, Marilyn?
Yeah, so I end up using paragraph numbering on this particular thing because I dug in far enough to find that in HotDocs, because I opened up my document. So I have logic to pick which of 3 sentences to use. So a page number sitting outside of that was always like, if it didn't take the first one, it would still increment the page number. So then I'd have a skip in my numbers, I think. And then another one which is just an if answered or not, I would always run into trouble with it, like throwing off. If it was in the middle of things, it would throw off the numbers. So I guess I'm looking for a resource maybe in, and I will admit I was not using the outline numbering option, which may be more sophisticated, so that might solve my problem.
Yeah,
but that's where I'd run into a problem is conditional formatting and incrementing numbers.
Yeah. So, I mean, one thing that I often do, because to keep life simpler, is that if there's a paragraph, and one of 3 paragraphs need to come in and they need to be numbered, then oftentimes what I'll do is I will put one numbered paragraph and then put the logic for those 3 paragraphs in the single paragraph. So I'll say, I'll have a numbered paragraph that I'll just do this list here. So I'll have this one numbered paragraph, and then I'll put, options 1, 2, and 3 all in the same paragraph, rather than having separate numbered paragraphs. Right. I mean, you can do separate numbered paragraphs, but oftentimes it's just a lot easier. The other thing that I see people running into a lot is that if you have an end if and a carriage return following it, that carriage return is going to be deleted unless you use smart returns and then have either HotDocs or add manually the pipe character, which will prevent this from being eaten. And eaten paragraph carriage returns are a frequent cause of numbering issues, right? Because you'll end up with paragraphs that end up being together as one paragraph when they shouldn't be, and then the numbering, of course, is all off.
Okay, so show me how you did that smart return.
Okay, so basically you can add it manually. So that's what I just did. I had an end if with nothing in the end if, and it's not a real end if. It's just a phony one. But you add a space, and then there's the pipe character is shift \. So it adds that, and that will prevent this carriage return from being eaten. In HotDocs, if you go into your HotDocs options, tools, options, and got to just find the right section here.
Near the top, I think.
Yeah, probably document assembly, right? Okay. Somewhere in here, let's actually, why don't we just smart returns? Okay, it's in template development. So we'll go here.
Oh, yeah.
Whoops. Template development. And right here, I don't know if this is kind of small, but it says insert returns after instructions in text templates. By default, it's always, and you just change it to smart. And then what will happen is when you go into your template and you select some text, like you select this text, for example, and you click the if button in the HotDocs toolbar, if you select the carriage return, HotDocs will put it in without the pipe character. But if you just select 1, 2, and 3 and you hit the if button, with smart returns enabled, it will add this for you because it will figure out, hey, he's just selected the text of the paragraph. He hasn't selected the carriage return. So he wants this paragraph to always come in regardless of, even though this text here may not be coming in.
Interesting. Okay. I never knew that.
Yeah.
That's really
Handy.
interesting.
Yeah, it's very handy.
Yeah.
Hey, Deanna had a question about bullets part. Just
okay. And her question is, can you insert bullets with paragraphs generated? And well, I mean, you can add. I'm not sure, 100% sure I understand the question, but you can make bulleted paragraphs. So I'll format this. So that's a bulleted paragraph. And if you have logic that inserts that paragraph, or if you just insert that paragraph in your template, it's going to be bulleted. I'm not sure.
Maybe from a computation, Bart, or Deanna, speak up, and if we're not
Yes,
construing your
yeah,
meaning.
sort of. If we don't actually add that paragraph, will is there a way to put the bullet inside the computation so that it appears with the text when selected?
I haven't tried it, but I suspect you can. So if you have I don't know if you can't select this. There are bullet characters. So let me just,
Symbol.
let me go down here. And so this is what I would try and see if it works. And I would try it both on desktop and on the server. But I found that sometimes with these special characters that you can actually insert them in a computation. So if I go to insert here, insert symbol, and then I'll just pick a bullet character here. So I got this bullet character, right? So sometimes you can do something like you can just select this character, Control C, go into a computation, add quotes, and paste this. And what'll happen, let me go and I'll do it in the, let's just try it right here for the fun of it. I've got this template. So let's do a computation. We'll call it test. We'll put a, well, I've got one, so let me do this. Okay, so it doesn't look like a bullet, but let's test it and see what it does. So there's your bullet. So I would, before I rely upon that, I would test it on the server to make sure that it works on the server. And, you
Right.
know, it's kind of a pain because if you look at it, it looks like just a pipe character, right? But really what's happening is that behind the scenes, somehow HotDocs knows what that is.
You can do that with smart
Okay.
quotes as well, Bart,
Thanks,
right?
Al.
You can do that with smart quotes. You can do
Yeah.
it with a lot of
Bulk of
things.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what the full parameters are of that. You know, I avoid doing things like that if I can. But sometimes, you know, necessity is the mother of invention.
Wait,
Great, thank you.
so say more about smart quotes.
Hmm.
Okay, so so smart quotes. So let me turn on showing formatting marks. Okay, so
Yeah.
my carriage returns are showing. And you can do this without carriage return, without the formatting marks showing, but it's much easier if you have the formatting mark showing. So supposing I wanted to have everything from this, from the comma to the end of this paragraph conditional. I've got smart quotes turned on in HotDocs tools, options, template development. I've got smart smart quotes, sorry. Never mind. Smart quotes. So I think for smart quotes, you can use, if you need to insert them in a computation, the best thing to do is to use the dot codes. There's RQ. Let me go into my test computation. So if you right click in here and you do character insertion,
Okay.
and you choose left quote, put some text, right click, character insertion, right quote,
Okay.
and then I'll do a test of this. So you can't, it's hard to see, but those are actually smart quotes that's putting
Okay.
in.
All right.
And you can use these on the, you can use, if you wanted to use them, you could use them in the body of the document. I mean, there isn't really a strong case to be made for them, but you know, you could use them in the body of the document. They're really useful in computations, along with a lot of others. It's worth exploring those dot codes. So, yeah. So I mean, and smart quotes. I think smart quotes. HotDocs used to object to smart quotes if you had them in logic or inside chevrons, but I think now it will accept them. You know, I have them turned off just because if there's a setting in Word basically that inserts, every time you type a quote, it inserts a smart quote, and I'm so used to not having that. I'm just more comfortable having it turned off. A lot of people who work in documents all day long that have to have smart quotes in their documents will have it turned on because it's obviously a lot easier. You can always insert it, you know, if you go to insert and symbol, and then you go to more symbols, and then you go to special characters. There are all these special characters, and every one of them has a shortcut. Most of them have a shortcut key, so there's a shortcut key for the double opening quote, and it's really hard to figure out exactly what they are. They're very small, and it's hard to figure out what they're trying to tell you that you need to type. I've figured it out on occasion, and then as soon as I need it again, I've forgotten it. So, but you can insert them. You can insert stuff using that menu.
So were you saying that bullet points are available in the smart quotes?
bullet points are available. You can, bullet points, that's a symbol basically. So if you go into, Word remembers the last symbol that you inserted. So remember that I had inserted this dot, you know, so you can have, I mean, let me backtrack a little bit. If you're creating a Word document or a Word template or what have you, and you need a bulleted list, then you should use the bulleted list here in Word. But if you need a bullet in a computation, which appears to work, then you have to basically insert it in your Word document and then copy it. I just copied it. And then you don't want it there, so you delete it. And then you go into your computation and insert it right here. And
Okay.
it appears that works.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. I just got confused because I thought you were, or maybe Mark said something about using smart quotes for bullets. And so I just wanted to follow up on that.
Yeah.
Was that a different
topic?
idea?
Sorry.
Or?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
I think similar technique, but different topic.
Yeah.
I think we need to wrap up. Claudia, we have to keep going and answer questions if people have them, but let us know if we need to stop.
I'm good. I mean, I think this is a good conversation. I put a note that I would be happy to see this conversation continue on the email list.
Yeah.
Because I think that a lot of people are not aware of these options and capacity. So if some of this got posted with the answer posted on the list, that might intrigue people to really look into this. I think we can go for another 10 minutes if this is helpful to the folks commenting or sharing.
Yep. Anybody else have a burning question or comment? Matt looks like his hand is raised.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Great. I just had a couple of troubleshooting suggestions, things I've found have been helpful. One is we've definitely been able to insert the bullets into computations and other HotDocs components, but I've pasted from Word into a text editing document. So you know you're just getting the text and no hidden word formatting. But I use that all the time. I just go over that text document, copy the bullet, and then just paste it in wherever I need it, in Word or a Google Doc or a HotDocs component. So that's one thing. Also, with regards to extra spacing, we were talking about that earlier with conditional testing in the templates. That's great to know that all the carriage returns that are involved in an if-then, they'll only show up if it's true. So sometimes what you may want to play around with is put in an else, even if you don't need it, and just have an enter key there. So then you know, even if this is false, I'm going to get a blank line. And related to that is one thing I've found to be invaluable is once you've generated an answer file, save that and then go to troubleshoot all the different formatting possibilities with your Word doc. I assemble the document using the answer file, and then I open up the answer file in a text editor and do some quick changes, turning flags off or changing variables, things like that, and then assemble again. And because it's sometimes much quicker to just go variable by variable within the answer file versus running through the interview all over. So then you can just jump back and forth very quickly. I mean, HotDocs is already pretty great with the outline on the left, so you can go right to a place and do it. But it saves a few steps. So, but if you're working with a longer document that has so many conditional formatting or paragraphs, things like that, it can be helpful to speed along the check, because I totally agree. I've spent a lot of time on that. Like, why are there all these extra spaces or none? Or it's back and forth. But that's one way to quickly check based on different answers.
One thing that I've done when I've in a complex situation, I get paragraphs that I don't want or paragraphs that are not appearing, is I'll color them with so I color each one with a different color, and then I assemble and I say, okay, I'm getting the red paragraph and not the blue one. So then I can go back and try to figure out why I'm getting that particular one. Because sometimes the content doesn't really tell you what's going on.
That's good.
Interesting.
And that's especially handy for these section break inserted subtemplate issues you were talking about earlier, Bart, right? I mean, because that's where HotDocs and Word play differently, and it's often very inscrutable with who did what, where, why.
This has been super helpful to me. Thank you so much for your patience. I'm very much a newbie on the Word side, so I really appreciate the input.
So
I do have to run now.
this is Marilyn Hart, but I guess I was learning all this at a point when Claudius mentioned the developer list. When people I learned what I learned half because I just tried things and half because I posted a question and generous people answered. And I would be happy to pay that forward. So don't hesitate to post questions if you're having problems.
Thank
Because
you.
we've all been there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Brett, if you mentioned you had something you could share with the list.
Yeah.
Feel free to share it via the list, and I'll make sure to also, if it's something I can copy into the call folder for this week, I can do that too.
Okay, yeah, it was basically the same thing Bart was saying about, he'll sometimes copy a bullet point and paste it right into a HotDocs computation. Sometimes I'll just do the same thing with one of those, kind of one of the symbol check boxes, either the one that has text through it or not. You could also paste those into computation, and just that way your computation, does some logic checks and can either put the checkbox right into the template instead of having all that logic right in the template taking up space.
Okay. Good. I think, yeah, if people who work on this find neat things that they were able to do or try new capacities and share them, others may learn this. The list has been quiet for kind of how to, and remember, there's no judgment. And if it doesn't get answered, I may ask Bart and Mark to answer for the whole list. So it's a good forum to learn. So I want to make sure that we keep that conversation going, other than just announcements and the stuff that we push out from the program side. It's your list. So thank you, Marilyn. If you want to model paying it forward, really appreciate it.
I will. I kind of want to put out there all my notes, like my 3 or 4 notes today, so I will remember them.
There you go.
Put them. Say what I learned, and then I can then put that also as a document on the folder.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll do it.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
All
Are we
right.
good?
We're
Anybody?
good.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody. Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.